If you're watching this on the Legacy of Survival channel, go ahead and subscribe now, because what you're about to hear isn't recycled trivia. It's the kind of grounded, brutally practical knowledge WWII families relied on every single day. The kind of history that deserves to be preserved and passed on. When we study survival in wartime, we aren't glorifying the struggle. We're honoring the people who endured it. And when we break down the tools that kept them alive, we're also learning skills that still matter today, especially for anyone serious about preparedness, resilience, or historical authenticity. With that said, let's get straight into 8 essential survival tools that kept WWII families alive, and how their lessons remain just as relevant. The first tool that shaped everyday survival was the hand crank grinder, something nearly every household used for turning whole grains, acorns, dried beans, or anything storable into edible flour. During rationing, this tool became the difference between wasting food and stretching calories. For a modern survivalist, the same principle applies. Shelf-stable foods are useless if you can't process them. Families use grinders to produce coarse flour for dark bread, barley flour for soups, and even powdered roots when wheat ran out. If you ever want to test this for yourself, buy a small hand grinder, store a few kilos of whole grains, and try producing a week's worth of flour manually. You'll immediately understand why this tool was so valued. A second essential tool was the cast-iron cookpot, the single most reliable cooking vessel in homes from London to Leningrad. What made cast iron indispensable wasn't nostalgia, it was indestructibility. Families boiled questionable water in it, cooked thin soups stretched with potato peels, baked bread directly in the pot, and even used the lid as a griddle. Cast iron adapts to open flames, wood stoves, coal, improvised alcohol burners, and outdoor fires. If you want to apply this knowledge today, practice heat discipline by cooking a complete meal using only one pot and minimal fuel. That's exactly how rationed households survived. The third tool that quietly saved lives was the coal or wood stove itself, not just as a cooking appliance, but as a heat source. Entire families centered their routines around conserving fuel. Housewives learned to time meals so that the stove served dual purposes. Morning tea would warm the house, then leftover heat would bake small goods, then simmering stew would last until evening. This layered use of heat is still practical today during power cuts. If you have a wood stove, experiment by planning a sequence of dishes that use decreasing levels of heat. It teaches fuel discipline better than any modern manual. A fourth crucial item was the hand-sewing kit. This wasn't a quaint household accessory, it was wartime infrastructure. Clothing wasn't just expensive, it was rationed, limited, and often unavailable. A torn coat had to last a winter, and socks were patched until they could barely hold thread. The ability to repair clothing directly contributed to survival. Modern preppers can apply this by learning 3 stitches: the back stitch for seams, the whip stitch for edges, and the darning stitch for socks. You don't need a wartime environment to appreciate the value of turning worn-out gear into functional equipment again. Another tool that shaped survival was the multi-purpose handsaw or hatchet. Families used these to process fuel, cut scrap wood for repairs, and build makeshift shelters during evacuations. While militaries had standardized gear, civilians relied on whatever they could maintain themselves. The practical takeaway today is simple. Own one high-quality cutting tool and learn to maintain it. Practice processing small firewood or repairing simple structures. WWII families didn't romanticize tools. They used what worked and used it hard. The sixth tool worth studying is the oil lamp. With blackouts enforced and electricity, being unreliable or even non-existent, oil lamps provided light for cooking, reading, sewing, and just simply existing after sunset. Families would save wick stubs, mix up improvised fuel, and ration their burn time carefully. You can actually apply this today by keeping a functioning oil lamp and practicing controlled burn sessions, say 30 minutes of light for a particular task. It really teaches power discipline, something, honestly, very few of us practice anymore. A seventh critical item was the water container, simple but honestly life-saving. Metal canisters, ceramic jugs, and enamel buckets allowed civilians to store clean water when infrastructure was bombed or contaminated. Families learned to rotate water, boil it quickly, and protect it from ash or debris. Modern survivalists can replicate this by dedicating 2 containers, one for storing purified water and another for collecting raw water. Just use them for a week. You'll see straight away why wartime households regarded containers as essential gear. And finally, the 8th tool was the radio. Not as entertainment, but as an information lifeline. Families use small battery-powered units to track evacuation orders, ration updates, weather reports, and news about troop movements. Information really meant safety. Even today, a compact emergency radio is one of the most practical survival tools you can own. To apply this lesson, choose one day a week to turn off your phone and rely solely on a radio for news. You'll appreciate, I think, just how much discipline and awareness WWII households maintained. These tools didn't just help families survive the war. They shaped a mentality built on resourcefulness, respect for materials, and an understanding that every object has multiple uses if you're willing to put in the work. If you found value in this breakdown, and you want more deep history insights like this, make sure you're subscribed to Legacy of Survival and share this video with someone who appreciates real, grounded historical knowledge.